I'm just wondering what your advice is to women in their mid-20s to early 30s who have desired to get married and have children early on, but they're having a hard time meeting a man to settle down with who will be a leader and initiator of the relationship.
Great question. Okay, so the best place to meet a man is, this is the equation, okay? So go find a Bible-believing church. This is how you do it, okay? Get to know the pastor's wife and tell her that you want to find a husband, and it will happen. I'm not kidding. I'm telling you, pastors' wives are always setting people, they know the whole roster of men, they're always looking. Hold yourself to a high standard. Here's the thing, is that in a world where men, unfortunately, are oversaturated to be able to get whatever they want, whenever they want it, have the self-discipline to all of a sudden be like, well, if you want me, then you're going to have to get your act together. Because you think about it, it's the opposite, right? Hey, if I'm going to get in a relationship with you and I'm going to partner with you, you know, we're going to have to have some very clear guidelines and rules, such as some women make the decision that I'm saving myself for marriage.
That was Talking Points USA's founder, Charlie Kirk, talking at the Young Women's Leadership Summit in Dallas. And by the way, some of the things that they were giving advice for some of these young women was about how to find a dude servative. Create a, quote, godly foundation for relationships, get married and have children. That is definitely the main theme. Have kids, have kids, have kids. So as they went back and forth, he's talking about it. Then many guys went up on stage and gave this advice. One being, of course, go and talk to the pastor's wife, because every kid that grew up in the church is a great guy. Every one of them. That's how those things work. Oh, I grew up in the church. Trust me. No, that's not the case. In fact, many times the pastors aren't the greatest guys either. Anyways, after all there's advice given about how to find someone in church, but there was another speaker that did get up there with his wife and made a comparison of how women are like a test driving of a sports car. Let's check that out.
My brother who lives in Houston, I said, he's a car collector. I said, you like Ferraris, right? He said, yeah, of course. I said, if we went to the dealership right now, and you could walk on the showroom floor, pick any Ferrari you wanted, and they give you the key and they give you the title. The only thing they said is you can't test drive it, but you can have it. Would you take it? He goes, of course, I'd be foolish if I didn't. I said, that's right. I found a Ferrari. I ain't got a test driver.
Ladies, that's the kind of man you want. Someone who honors you. Yes. I mean, a Ferrari? Thank you.
Yeah.
You see the walk? I had to zoom in on the walk as you went back over there because, you know, he's smooth.
Real man.
Anyways, there is that was the husband-wife duo talking about how she's a Ferrari and you don't have to test drive a Ferrari if somebody's just gonna give you one off the lot. So in other words, women are sports cars. They should be driven. And also, sex is a test drive. It has everything to do with being a male-centric part of this relationship. This is a test drive. I'm just seeing if it works. I don't need to see if you work, girl, because you know you're perfect. I don't need to test drive you. Oh my God, I feel like this was getting talked about in 1992, and that's when it was kind of the controversial thing to say. But now they're still pushing the same thing 30 years later. What are your thoughts on this part? We got more, but I want your thoughts on the test drive.
So, you know, really the reality is that guys like this, and especially there's huge platforms online for guys like this, is anyone who oversimplifies relationships, whether it's man or woman with the opposite sex, is full of it, because people are very complicated. Like, you know, like the reality of relationships and dealing with people, especially when you're picking partners, you know, like he said, like you were saying, I don't have to test drive it. I just know right away if that's their quality right there. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, like again, things matter. Like what type of household people come from. Like, are their families divorced or not? And if they are, have you dealt with that in any type of proper way? How do you view relationships? What types of things have you been through in your past? How have you dealt with that trauma? Like, do you want children? Do you not want children? What type of lifestyle? All of that is really goes into it. So anybody who sells you this image of just like how to be a real man, how to be an alpha man, just develop these traits and women just can't resist you. Like, nah, man, they don't know, they don't deal with women in real life because women are people, they're not robots. Like it's not just you do X, Y, and Z and women will just, they can't resist you. Like, Nah, man, they'll still be able to resist you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
the thought that women just don't have their own thought process outside of just, I'm a man, and now that I'm a man, you have to take me because you want me.
What can you do?
Think about the test drive thing. What if the woman wants to test drive the guy because she doesn't want bad sex the rest of her life either?
I mean, bad sex, bad partner, and then again, y'all could do well, but just not quite be right for long-term partnership.
Totally.
You know what I mean? So there's just so much that goes into it.
It's about control. Speaking of control, there was one other aspect of this conference, which was, as I mentioned, the babies, the babies, the babies, the babies. Here's Benny Johnson pushing that line.
So just like having that sweet bite of ice cream or a slice of pizza, man, you can't just stop at one. You can't just have one bite. You gotta keep going. You gotta keep having babies. I say this to all you out there: more Americans, more babies. Let's go. Greatest country in the world. Let's have more Americans.
Greatest country in the world. So again, we know the code words here when it comes to talking this types of groups is have more babies. We need to replenish our white population because we're running out. Now, by the way, that more babies talk, let's go into some details since you don't really believe me. Natalism, or pro-natalism, is a political ideology which promotes the reproduction of human life, or perhaps more aptly, sees women's primary role as giving birth in order to boost a country's native population. In Europe, the average number of children that women are having has fallen, meaning some countries are struggling to maintain their population without immigration. Think about that immigration line as we continue here. Last year, the Prime Minister of Hungary, Viktor Orban, introduced several pro-natalist policies. They included housing subsidies for single mothers, 21,000 new nursery places, and state funding for families who need to buy people carriers. He has also made it so that women with more than 4 children will be exempt from income tax for life. Birth rates are declining in Europe, perhaps because wider access to contraception has given women reproductive autonomy in a way we've never seen before. But genuine concerns about declining population can quickly become conversations about curbing women's rights. I want you guys to stop me when you hear all these comparisons and similarities to what they're trying to push here. Continuing on, Hungary may be rewarding women for having children, but at the same time, the country has restricted access to abortion and made it harder for women to access them legally. More than this, Orban has made explicitly anti-immigration comments, saying that he doesn't want just any children, he wants Hungarian children. In a State of the Nation address, he said, there are fewer and fewer children born in Europe. For the West, the answer to that challenge is immigration. For every missing child, there should be one coming in, and then the numbers will be fine. Hungarian people think differently. We do not need numbers, we need Hungarian children. Migration for us is surrender. Doesn't that sound a lot like Donald Trump? Immigration coming in, they're invading us, the invaders. We need to have more babies to offset all of these immigrants that coming to replace you. It's weird because Tucker Carlson says it, conservatives always say it, and then they push many of their followers to think we're being invaded, they're taking over, there's too many of those others coming in, we need more of us. It all connects, even when it comes to this raucous event that they had, telling these young women, have more babies. We need you to have more babies. That's all you are to us. Our baby factories. That's why next step, getting rid of Roe v. Wade. Your last thoughts on this, Jackson?
Yeah, so the bottom line is, not only have more white babies, but also make it more difficult for women to have choice. Because, in the last 50, 60 years, as women have not only had access to hormonal birth control, but also just more economic freedom, it's really made the playing field such that, especially as a man, you have to actually be somewhat impressed, at least somewhat impressive for women to want to be around you, just a little, like you not just, you can't be quite as mediocre as you once were before, which involves things like people skills, patience, you know what I mean? Which again, like it really goes deep because a lot of this just reflects back to these men's dating experiences. You know what I mean? 100%. It really does. So that's my final thoughts on it.
And what they wishing it would be a little bit different if they've had their bad experiences. And this is how you do it. Maybe listen to what women are telling you they're looking for.
Yeah, maybe learn from your mistakes, but can't have that.
Come on. Yeah. That's beta. That's beta type of actions there.